Okay, so we are talking about the preterite today. Somebody tell me what the preterite is exactly? Have we ever looked at the preterite? I don't remember. I get confused year to year and which class I've done what with. So can you guys remind me, have we done anything with preterite yet? No? Okay. Preterite is the grammatical term that we use in Spanish to describe the past tense. Okay? So when we refer to preterite, I'm specifically talking about a conjugation of a verb that's conjugated to intimate the idea of being past tense instead of being present tense. So typically we refer to the present tense indicative, which would be the regular conjugation that tells you what the verb is doing or what the person is doing, and that they're doing it in the present tense. So as the most obvious example, hablo. Hablo means two things. I speak or I am speaking, both of which are present tense because it's happening now. Hablo, I speak, right? Or it's also I am speaking. So it'd still be present tense, but it could be present tense simple or present tense continuous. I speak, I am speaking. It could be either one. But it's present tense indicative because the O is the letter that we use for first person conjugations for the AR verb when we're talking about present tense indicative. And I've mentioned several times how we will say things like the endings for AR is O, as, a, amos, ice, on, right? And I said now these are going to be different endings if it's a different tense. Okay, I've mentioned that. Today is the day that we start looking at a different tense. So you might also remember that we said things like accent marks make a difference. So hablo means I speak, but hablo means something different. Okay? And the only difference is the accent mark and how you say it. Accent falls on, according to the accent rules, second to last vowel. So this one would say hablo, accent on the A, whereas the accent mark overrides, so it's not hablo for this one, it's what? How do you say this? How do you say this word? Somebody? Say it again. That's this one. Hablo. How do you say this word? Hablo. So let's, I know, right? Listen again. Hablo. Hablo. It's the accent, the emphasis that you make. So everyone say this one. Hablo. Nice and loud. Hablo. Now say this one. Hablo. Hablo. Right, the accent, the emphasis. Did you say hablo? Okay. Now do you understand the difference? Okay, good. So, that accent mark is going to make a difference. It's like the difference between these two. Okay? Hablas versus habláis. Let's say these. Hablas. Hablas. Habláis. Okay. Does that help you guys understand the difference when you place an accent mark? Okay, good. So what we're doing today is looking at the preterite tense, and specifically the preterite for ir and ser. Okay, so now these are regular conjugations, right? We've done regular for a while, and then for several weeks we did some irregular present tense. Now we're going to look at the irregular preterite. So we're kind of doing it backwards. There is a regular conjugation set for preterite, which we're going to come to this unit. This whole unit is all preterite, okay? Like all 6 lessons or however many we have. They're all preterite for different kinds of verbs, but we're starting with irregular for these verbs, ser and ir. Can you guys remind me what these verbs mean? What does ser mean? ¿Qué significa ser? Ser. Yes, to be. Good. And what does ir mean? Correct. Okay. What is unique, and the reason that we start with these two, is that their preterite form of conjugations for both these verbs are identical. Okay, so you memorize one set, and the word for I, past tense of to be, is the same word for past tense of I went. Okay, it's the same set. So we're going to memorize the set, but you need to understand that when we learn these words, it could mean past tense of I to be or past tense of to go. All right, each word. So let's look at this chart and build our chart here. We've got singular and plural, and then 1, 2, and 3. The first one is fui, like this, fui. Everyone say that. Fui. Fui. Yeah. Like free, but you have a lift. It's fui. Okay. Next one is fuiste. Fuiste. And then fue. So already there's some commonalities as far as a pattern, right? The first one is ending in some vowels like this. Oh, but it's its own thing. Then second person singular has this S, just like hablas. And then this one is similar to fuiste, but not the same, except it drops the S. This one is similar. So there's some similarities, but it is very different. And then fuimos, which is obviously like many first person plural verb conjugations, the MOS, hablamos, right? So fuimos means we, past tense of to be or to go. And then fuisteis and then there is no accent. Okay, make sure you recognize normally that second person plural is going to have the vowel IS compared to the vowel S, right? These are always kind of following the same pattern as as, ice, adding this I. But it very often adds the accent mark, right? For second person plural. It does not for this, okay? So don't confuse that. And last one, fueron, which that N at the end is very common, right? For the third person plural. So very common, you'll find the N similar to third person singular, but adding an N. Just like this, third person singular is habla, and then hablan with the N. So similar patterns, okay? Just recognize the differences too. So let's read what it says. The verbs ir and ser share the same forms in the preterite. The context determines which verb is being used. So what does preterite mean? It means past tense, which means fui means I went or I was. Okay, but let's just make sure we don't confuse I was in English with I was in Spanish, okay? Because remember, there's two different verbs for to be, and this is only one of them. Which idea of to be does ser mean as opposed to the other verb? Remember, there's two verbs for to be, and they each mean they're to be in a specific sense and different from each other. Which one and what does ser mean? What kind of to be?
Do you know how to turn on the HDMI for this?
Yeah, you click search, source search, and if your HDMI wire is plugged into your laptop, it'll find it.
Okay.
Yeah, so if your laptop's plugged in, click source search, and it'll scroll through until it gets to your laptop.
That's what I tried, but...
It's not working?
Yeah, suddenly, but...
Okay, let me come over in a little bit. I'll help you.
Okay.
Thanks. Okay, so what does ser mean? Or at least, can somebody tell me the other verb? Good, okay, so we've got estar and ser. Can you guys remember what some of the differences were? Maybe you can't remember which one was which, but do you remember what the differences were, even if you don't remember which one was which? Okay, existence, good. That's what you said, right?
Yeah.
Existence, what else? Okay, so we have permanence. Ser is permanent and a star is what? Temporary. Okay, so permanent / temporary. Okay, good. What else? Any other differences? Sorry? Location. Good. What else? Any other ones? Identity. And the last one, I guess, would be state of being. Okay, so I gotta make sure it fits on the screen. Let me put it over here. We have estar, which was, like Taylor said, the temporary one. And ser is the more permanent one. Now, that's not always the case. That's just the generalization, right? But it helps us understand some of the differences. So, ser has to do with your identity, or what makes the object what it is. And estar has to do with condition. So if I say I am sick, then that's just a temporary condition. It's something that doesn't have anything to do with who I am. I could be a good or a bad person and still be sick, right? Okay, I can be David when I'm sick, and I'm still David when I'm not sick. I am an American when I'm sick, and I'm still an American when I am not sick. Okay, so those are the differences. This has to do with condition, and this has to do with identity. So the door es azul. The door ser. The door es. Es. Es is a conjugation of ser because the door is blue. That's part of its identity. It's a blue door. But the door is blue whether it's open or closed, right? So the closed or openness of the door is its condition. So la puerta está abrir. The door is open, but la puerta es azul. It is blue. Okay, so ser here is referring only to these kinds of to be, not these. If we want to learn how to say something was, that's what we're doing, past tense, preterite. Something was, which is a form of to be, but we're talking about location, then you're not going to use these verbs. Okay? You're only going to use the preterite form of estar, because that's the one that talks about location, because location is a condition. So, make sure you don't use fui for I was at school, because fui is first person singular, so preterite form of to be, fui means I was, but it doesn't mean I was at school. That's location. So can somebody give me an example trying to use fui in the right sense of ser? I was something. You can say the English word and then we can try to find out the Spanish word. But fui what? What would be a correct way of using fui? So think about the ways in which you can use ser to be something in the right way, not to be at school, but to be what? And then you can say, I was that, whatever it is. What would be an example? What about sick, right? That's something that, oh no, I'm sorry. I even made the mistake. Sickness would be estar. So I was anything. Okay, a sinner. Okay? Now I am saved. Now I'm a Christian. And not that we're not a sinner still, but my identity used to be a sinner of the world. Now my identity is in Christ. So that could be used to say fui. Fui, I was un pecador. I was a sinner. Okay? Pecado means sin. So. All right. Let's say these conjugations so that we get them. All right? You can repeat after me and then we'll say them together a couple times. Fui. Fui. Fuiste. Fue. Fuimos. Fuistes. I'm sorry, I said that wrong. Listen carefully. Fuistes. That's wrong. It's fuisteis. Yeah, good. Okay, try that again. Fuisteis y fueron. Okay, uno más. Fui, fuiste, fue. Fui, fuiste, fue. Fuimos, fuisteis, fueron. Okay, otra vez. With me, okay? Fui, fuiste, fue, fuimos, fuisteis, fueron. Okay, and that means, fuimos means we went or we were. So, if I want to say we went to the beach, I would say fuimos a la playa. Or if Jackson comes back from the hallway and I say a donde, to where, fuiste, to where did you go, you would say fui al baño. I went, fui al baño, to the bathroom. Okay? So, let's try saying those questions, okay? Ask your neighbor, say, ¿a dónde fuiste? To where did you go? And then they can respond, fui al somewhere. Bathroom, a la biblioteca, to the library, a la escuela, to school, wherever you would like to say that you went, okay? So if you need to take a moment, look up a word to say, this is where I went, then try it. Turn to your neighbor, ask each other the question and respond, and do it both ways so you both get to say both sides, okay? All right, so take a moment, look up a location that you went somewhere, how to say it. You can use Google Translate if you want to just look it up, so it's fast. And then ask each other that question. Once you've got a word, go ahead and turn to your neighbor and ask them, where did you go? Okay, go ahead and turn to your neighbors. So, how do you say to where did you go? ¿A dónde fuiste? All right. Okay. Should have gotten a little bit of practice with it. I'm trying to say it, think it through. Let's do a little bit of activity 5. Activity 5 says supply the correct preterite form of ir or ser to indicate which verb is being used. So that means we're going to have to look at a couple things. Who's the subject? Are they first person, second, or third person? And are they singular or plural? So we know which conjugation to use. And then we need to decide whether or not we should use, whether or not it's saying we were or we go, okay? Now, you're going to get it right as long as you get first person the person and number correct because that means either one, but we would still want to understand the context and know, is the sentence saying I went or I was? Okay? So, let's do number 1. Nosotros blank a Costa Rica en autobús. So what does this mean so far? Okay, nosotros means what? We, bueno. And what does a Costa Rica mean? To Costa Rica, bueno. And then en autobús. ¿Qué significa en autobús? Huh? Not bus, I mean, it is bus, but not just bus. En autobús. In or on, yeah, either one. Good. So it means both. It means both. So good. So what do we say? Do we say we were or we went? We were. We went, right. And the difference is it says a Costa Rica, right? So if it had said something like something in Costa Rica, then it would not mean we went in Costa Rica. We were in Costa Rica, but that would be location, right? And so you would not use this verb anyway. Okay, so what is the correct conjugation for this blank? Fuimos, correct. Bueno. Okay, next. Margarita blank la primera en llegar. Okay, what does this mean? Margarita is the subject, right? The girl Margarita. And then the blank. What does the rest of this mean? That's going to provide the context so we know which meaning it's using. What does la primera mean? The first, right? Like the primary. The first, and then en llegar. What does en mean again? In, correct. And then llegar is a verb. So how do we arrive in a verb? That doesn't make sense, right? Because llegar is a verb which you know because it ends in AR. Does anybody know what llegar means? What'd you say? Arrive? Correct. So llegar means to arrive. But if you remember, there are also 4 different possible translations of an infinitive, right? One of them was to arrive. But one of the other 4 was a gerund, which is an ing form of the verb. So arriving. And it does make sense if you translate it that way. Margarita, something, the first in arriving. Okay, now we might not say it exactly like that, but it does make sense, right? She's first in arriving. We would say first to arrive, but they use a preposition in instead. So now, Margarita blank. Which conjugation do we use? Margarita what? Fue, right, because fue is third person, and Margarita is third person, and she's by herself. She alone, not they, right? So third person singular, which is bottom left, and that would be fue. All right. Margarita fue. Now, does Margarita fue mean she went or she was? She was. She was the first to arrive. Exactly. Good. Okay, last one that we'll do together. Ellos, blanco, de vacaciones en sus padres. It said vacaciones, and I almost thought it said vaccines. Ellos, blank, de vacaciones en sus padres. What does this sentence mean? So ellos, start with that. What does ellos mean? Well, ellos means they, right? Right. Okay, they. And then what does de mean? Yes, of. It kind of has 3 possible, although some are more rare than others, 3 possible words that it could be translated. Of is one of them. Not on. That would make sense in English to say it that way. But that's not what the word de means. Huh? So it's 3 F words. That sounds really bad. 3 words with the letter F, okay? Of, for, or from. It could mean any one of those. Like de donde means from, where, okay? De means de su, of you. It's what we use to say possessive. But sometimes it can mean for in a loose sense. So they went for vacation. So the best translation of the verb ser, or of the preterite here, would be went. They went for vacation con sus padres. What does that mean? ¿Qué significa con? Anybody remember what con means? It's also part of the word conmigo or contigo. Yes, with her parents. Or with their parents, sorry. Okay, any questions on how to conjugate the preterite form of ser and ir? All right. Go ahead and finish your homework. I believe it's activity 5 and 6. Okay?